Hey, we're back with another episode of Revivalcast. It's an holiday weekend. We've got Indigenous People Day tomorrow, so it's just Cheshire and me here for you guys today. And we're going to talk about the blog, of course, which was about the day in the life of a caravaneer, and that's Paro, hence the title of our episode, Poor Paro. Um, and we'll also delve into some of the topics on the forums. I know a big one for Cheshire is necromancy again. And we've got Ombla in chat. We've got Donnie Ergo. I've got to get Donnie Ergo on here sometime. Okay. We're going to have a talk about that, Donnie Ergo. And let's see.
Just make sure you
Um,
have a shirt on when you show up.
um, Anything interesting happen in IRC? Were you in IRC this week?
I was in IRC this week. Let's see what has happened in IRC. I am totally drawing a blank on IRC right now.
No. We had
Um,
a cool topic on the forums this morning, I think, which was it was common knowledge vs uncommon knowledge, and it
yeah,
was kind of asking about what happens when stuff makes it to the wiki. And those of you who may not be paying attention to the forums yet, there's a separation between player knowledge and character knowledge that the devs are trying to work on. One of the examples that came up in this forum topic today was it's about what happens when players place knowledge up on the wiki, and so you already know things on the wiki. And one of the examples that was given was mushrooms. So if you idea was that if somebody puts up the different types of mushrooms, poisonous mushrooms versus non-poisonous mushrooms, up on the wiki, then players know which mushrooms to avoid. But I think one of the ways to handle that is to have it so that it's not like all mushrooms are poisonous, but what makes them non-poisonous is your character knowledge. And when you're starting your character is cooking or using the mushrooms, it's their knowledge that determines whether or not the mushrooms remain poisonous. So I think there's still ways for the devs to work out the difference between player knowledge and character knowledge. Just because your character may know that these mushrooms are poisonous doesn't mean that they know how to make them non-poisonous. Um,
there's that. Let's see. I think in the past they've also mentioned that there may be differences between servers as well. So what may be a poisonous mushroom on one server may be harmless on another. Another thing I was thinking of was in regards to like using mushrooms as an ingredient for something, is that it could be harmless on its own, but when mixed with a certain other ingredient, it may unleash a toxic property as well. So, like mustard gas, it's made from relatively simple home materials, but when combined, you get a toxic cloud. So much fun. Not at all, but yeah. So yeah, you could do that with mushrooms or what have you as well, and that can also be different from server to server.
Yeah, I think though, even there, you probably don't want, because then you could just have different wikis for each server, and that, right? And but I'm just saying, I don't know what the devs will actually do, but there are things that if we can think of stuff, the devs can certainly think of stuff. I think that there's going to be ways to make it so that your character knowledge is different than the player knowledge, and the wikis aren't going to be as useful as what we're normally used to.
Mhm.
Um, but unless you had anything really, I mean, we're going to get into necromancy a little bit later, but unless you had
Oh,
anything um, else, I was going to dive into the blog real quick. Was day in the life of a caravaneer named Paro.
mhm.
And so one of the things I was thinking about too, we have to think about, we've normally been talking about how we don't have classes in Revival, but we do have these professions, and we also do have master professions. And the master professions are kind of opened up or unlocked based on the combination of skills that we've mastered.
Yeah.
And I think last week they mentioned Druid. So I'm not sure that Caravaneer, we didn't really get skills in this blog. It was more like circumstances. So Paro is a brewer, and what else does he? He has a vineyard, and he's
Yep.
got some. He had some horses and a cart.
Yep.
Um, so maybe brewing and distilling would be part of his skills, but I don't know
If
if these skills are going to unlock Caravaneer. I think not.
I don't think the brewing stuff really has anything to do with
Right.
it, but willing to bet things like logistics probably does. If Caravaneer is in fact a master profession skill, which it seems like it might be,
I think it's
in
more. I
theory.
think it's more broad than that. Maybe a math. Maybe it's just a profession, but not a master profession.
Maybe.
Um, because I think it could be logistics makes more sense. That's more broad, right? You could use that's about um, commanding people or managing the people that you have, probably
Like
getting
our
from one place to another. Um, but that you could have all kinds of right products that you might be trying to ship. So could be textiles or uh, right. Isn't there also logging? Like maybe you have logs that you got to move from one place to another, and you're going to do that by caravan instead of by river or ocean or something. I don't know.
possibly.
Um,
One
but
thing.
go ahead.
Well, one thing I was wondering about was that he had an agent, and I'm wondering because logistics is supposed to be about. It's also supposed to be about the amount of like NPCs you can control. I wonder if the agent falls under that, or if they are like an independent thing. You just they still do their own thing. They're not under your command. They just provide a service in exchange for money, kind of deal. Or if that does fall under logistics, it's kind of murky to me.
Hmm.
Whether that agent
How many agents you can have would probably be a factor of logistics. Um,
possibly, yeah,
but yeah, I mean, at that point, so he has an Paro
Snipe
lives
answered.
in Valor, and he has business set up in Fall Creek. Fall Creek is quite a ways away. Um, he had sent some beer, I guess. Malomel, is that the name of it? Uh, Um,
Oh,
that kind of ale or beer or alcohol. Um, he did that to Fall Creek, but he has not heard back yet. He's looking up in the skies to see if his messenger pigeon will let him know that it's arrived, and he hasn't received anything yet. Um, and and so he has an agent in Fall Creek that will give him reports about what is prosperous to
hmm,
sell, I guess, in Fall Creek. That's kind of the basic information. He's decided that enough of his shipments have been stolen along the way to Fall Creek that he's no longer going to do business there, and he's thinking he should go to the caravan house, who's kind of the middleman between Paro and the agent, and he's going to
terminate that contract
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Snipe Hunter responded saying that agents are under the logistics skill, so
Hmm.
they count towards your 12
Yeah,
minions, I guess.
yeah, um, yeah. I'm
Uh,
seeing something else coming on board too a little earlier. Caravaner is more like an occupation than a mechanical profession. Host of related skills. but they aren't bound up in a master profession like druidism is, which is, yeah, like I thought. You
Okay.
might branch out into other things as you get more skin in the game, but logistics is an important one across the board. Yeah.
Right on. Hmm. Let's see. The messenger pigeon thing was interesting to me too. So, long distance communication is a thing in Revival. It's just not instantaneous, which is awesome. So,
Right.
I'll look forward to that. I'm kind of curious if there's a way to intercept that. Like if you trained hawks or whatever to go and capture pigeons or whatnot, that'd be pretty cool. Uh,
Yeah, I
uh,
mean, I was thinking there should be tools um, and by tools, I'm talking spells or objects or like the messenger pigeon. But there should be tools for far speaking, um, whether it's a crystal ball, forms of divination, some kind of spell, or the messenger pigeon. So yeah, I've been thinking that there should be some form of long distance communication. It's just not going to be as easy as we're used to in most games. I think somebody had mentioned whether or not you could, keep a global chat of uh, multi-person chat open for uh, long periods of time. But I think that would, if it's coming through some kind of spell, that's probably going to be depleting ether in a way that we aren't going to be able to do that too easily. So messenger pigeon sounds like a great method. Um,
yeah, that it definitely seems like something interesting.
huh.
At least
So Omboy is saying that the messenger pigeon is kind of tied to the caravan. So the caravans carry a pigeon. When it arrives at the caravan house, it's sent and it'll be released to come back to you. That's kind of cool.
okay. Hmm, that is interesting. So I guess the pigeon isn't much of a long distance communication device.
I mean, we'll have to see what other things you can put on the carrier pigeon as your messenger pigeon as you're sending the caravan. Maybe that's part of the mail packet that goes along with the caravan, right? I don't know. Um, and so let's see. So um, Paro is really hoping that he's going to receive some message. He keeps looking up to the skies but doesn't get anything. And he's deciding that bandits have intercepted the caravan. So that means that he's lost the horse, he's lost the cart, um, and he's lost whatever products he's had on the cart. And he's going to need a way to. It would be nice. I would guess that he would have some of that insured. Um, but it would be nice if he can recoup some of those losses, right?
Sounds like he had a backup plan. He's thinking in the blog it said he was storing those casks that he's trying to sell now for a rainy day situation like this. Um, Something, I guess, to get back on his feet real quick with. Something he knows will sell for a lot real fast. Um, so that seems to be what he's doing now. He's going to a new market, Crowns Rock, I believe, with these casks that he's been saving up. And he's going to see if he can get his foot in the door in a new market. At least that's the impression I got.
Yeah, and it seems like he's thinking that he would have done better if he had gone himself. But again, we didn't get enough skills associated with this for me to get an idea of why he thinks he would do a better job than.
I, I think that's something the devs have said before is that players have like a higher potential skill wise than NPCs can get to. Like, yeah, you'll have like a few master NPCs out there, but general NPC hirelings that you'll get probably in the middle tier skill wise, whereas you, the player, is probably going to be a bit higher than
Yeah,
your
but
own
I just don't know
hirelings.
what skills he's going to be using that that will get him there.
Uh,
That's what I'm saying.
there are supposedly there's a negotiation skill. I don't think I've got them added to my skill list yet on the forums. Uh, but once I definitely see what the hard negotiation skills are, I'll definitely see about getting them on there if I haven't got them on yet there yet.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So I don't know if that means that he thinks that he would be able to negotiate with the bandits better. I don't know what that means exactly. But um yeah, so this is the third time it says in 3 months that that he's lost stuff, which is why he's decided he's going to go ahead and go to Crown's Rock himself. Now, somebody was wondering about um blessings and bandits and how that's going to work for people who are traveling from one place to another. If they have blessings, if blessings are going to last long enough day by day to get them where they need to go without being attacked by bandits or by PvP. Um, and I forget which. I think it was Copper Dragon who was replying and saying some of the same things that I was thinking. I forget which thread it was in at the moment, but unfortunately, it was not in the caravan thread where it should have been.
um,
I think it was in the PvP versus PvE thread, actually. Um,
that sounds about right.
and and yeah, so I was thinking these bandits, would they be able to have rituals that could get rid of things?
I
That could
think
be
the
interesting.
that would be interesting. I don't think there. I think the devs have said there's nothing like that right now, like a way to counter the blessing.
No, you can
Um,
destroy the temple, and if you're
well, yeah,
far,
there's that, but
if you're
not.
far enough away from the temple where you got the blessing, then it's
Yeah,
going to be
it's just
depleted.
I think
Um,
what Copper Dragon was talking about was something that I've brought up before about having some kind of counter blessing that allows you to ignore the protection blessing.
mhm.
Like say what's that warrior god's name, Barak or something like that.
Mm.
Um, if you could get a blessing from him to attack somebody who wronged you or something like that, despite them having a blessing protection on them, kind of deal. But I think they said there's nothing like that at the moment. But who knows? Maybe that'll change. Just
Um,
depending on how the system actually proves to work when it comes out.
then the other things to think about is the different gods that are like along your way. So it's not necessarily going to be the
The
gods
one
that you
god,
want.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
along
what
the
your
way. Yeah,
relationship is with those other gods, and
exactly.
if there's even any shrines at all between point A and point B. You might have, your god here and a god there, but on the road between, it could be a long expanse, no towns, no temples, nothing, no shrines anywhere to get a blessing from.
There's also protective gargoyles, but there might not be any along that particular road. It depends on how well traveled the road is. So, um,
There's also ocean travel. We are on an archipelago.
yeah.
There ain't nothing out there. uh,
Um, so I don't think I think that it's most likely that there will be some push and pull in terms of PvP versus PvE, and uh, I think it was Snipe Hunter also mentioned that the blessings will protect against PvP, but they won't necessarily protect against the caravan goods being stolen. So,
yeah. So, like, the cart driver, he might be safe, but the cart he's on isn't safe.
and so again, this is kind of like with EverQuest Next. We have to be specific and talk about the blessings protecting from PvP combats.
Mhm,
But player versus player stealing somebody's stuff is also a form of player versus player conflict.
mhm.
So, I haven't seen a shrine in a while, guys. um, yeah, someone could have made an effort to strip that section of road as well. Yeah, so we'll just see what happens. But I don't think any of it is going to be as simple as we normally expect things to be in MMORPGs.
Oh yeah,
Um,
this is gonna be interesting. I am looking forward to it. um, oh
we
man.
got a little bit of some flavor of Valor with the canals and
Hmm.
taking a like what was it called? It was like a valet boat. So
Yep,
um,
sounds a lot like Venice
yeah,
with the gondola
yeah.
uh, guys there. So that's kind of neat. Gondola taxis going through Valir. Um, or you could just travel on foot like he did later on with it, which he had to do with his cart. Gondola can't carry a cart.
Yeah. And they spoke a little bit about that, the sizes of the ship in relation to your carts, and um, even once he gets to the docks, he's got to find someone who has a ship big enough that can take his medium-sized cart and a couple of horses
Mhm.
on it, along with all the other people, I guess. Um, and yeah, we'll have to see what kind of bargains we'll have to make, what the negotiations for that is like, because. Um, you know, it might be more expensive if you need to make room, or if you want to be the only person on the ship. Maybe you can buy out the whole ship, right? Um,
Privacy. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, it'll be interesting seeing how player on player on NPC or even NPC on NPC negotiations go.
I've been
Uh,
watching X Factor, both UK and Australia, I think, are going right now, and it's the five-chair challenge in Australia, I think, and the six-chair challenge in the UK, and so. They've got like 24 singers, and they've got to whittle them down to six chairs. And so the person will like, yeah, you're great, you're great, you're great, and they'll get six people in the chair, and then some other great singer will sing, and they're like, no, I have to have you, so I have to kick somebody out of this chair, and you're gonna take their spot. And I'm thinking, you go to the ship and you think that you've made your negotiation and you get to go, and then somebody else comes along and says,
got a better
twice
deal.
as much. I'll pay you twice as much to kick him off and give me a spot. I don't know if that'll happen, but sounds like it's a possibility.
Definitely sounds like it could happen. Yeah.
Swap, swap, they suck. Um,
Oh wow.
yeah, because this said that Paro first went to a player um, shipwright or you know
Hmm. And the
person
guy
to try and get
just
them on. Yeah, and,
was rude to him back.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Um,
hopefully there's enough options. I mean, we just have to see how many people are there, how long do you wait, what other kinds of contracts can you make with the caravan house? I mean,
the kind of a opposite situation is probably also true because I mean, in his situation, there wasn't a whole lot of boats to pick from. But in a place that does have a lot of ships currently in port, he might be trying to find, hey, I'll pay this much to go on a trip. And one ship captain was like, sure, we'll take you for that much. But another one might butt in and be like, I'll take you for half of that.
that could
So,
be cool.
yeah.
And hopefully your negotiation skills and all that stuff will help with that. Um, so what else was happening? We have some names because this is one of the things that I like too. We've got Spiced Reserve is the name of his other shipment that he's taken to
Mhm.
Crowns Rock. I'm hoping that we've got a lot of great names for our food and drink, um, especially as we're adding different ingredients and we've got Spiced Reserve. Will we have Unspiced Reserve? What will we have?
Seems like it. A while back when they were talking, I believe they did a cooking blog,
Hmm.
and one of the examples was for a a pie, and then there was a spiced pie variant because she added in like pepper or something like
Hmm.
that. So yeah, the names of a dish can change depending on what you do to it. Uh, Same probably could be done with wines and mead and all that fun stuff too, and the brewing skill, which I believe they have been talking about on the forums the past day or two.
Hmm.
Um, I'll see if I can pull that one up. Mini games for or mini games thread, yeah, they talking about a little bit of that, and one there was one little neat bit from that thread I saw was the time certain things take,
Hmm.
like farming. You're not going to be planting, growing, and harvesting crops in a day. Unlike other professions where you could sit down, start to finish something in one session, boom, done. Some skills out there, it's going to take weeks, months to actually finish something.
Yeah,
So
that's why when you and Onomaru were talking to me about not being able to have 19 alts, and you were saying like if you're a farmer, I'm like, why are you picking farm? Like I'm not gonna, my alts are not gonna be farmers. Like that's gonna take a long time. My alts are
yeah,
pretty much gonna be doing things that don't take a long a long time. That's why I can
yeah.
have 19. Yeah, I expect farming to take a few days to raise some crops, at
I
least.
think it's going to take a lot more than a few
I'm just
days
saying,
because
at least, corn doesn't grow in a day, squash doesn't grow in a day. Um,
let's see, the time scale is 3 to 1. So what? Harvesting goes from what, spring to fall kind of deal normally. So you're
you
looking at
expect
what?
at least 3 months for something to grow before you harvest it. At least 3 months, if not 6 months.
Yeah,
Four
you're
months,
looking
I don't.
at you're going to only have 3 harvests in a whole year. It looks
Yeah.
like.
So
So have fun with that farming, guys. I do not have the patience for it. I tell you, I do not have the patience for that. But for those of you out there who do, awesome. Good luck with
well,
that.
I mean, I think we're gonna. I think it's not gonna take as much time as real time. I think the same thing is for breeding, right? If we're breeding animals, I don't think we're gonna have to wait uh, actually a year or 6 months or all that, however long it takes to gestate a cow or a horse. I don't think we're gonna actually have to wait that length of game time. Um, but we'll see. What else was going on in the blog? I think
Oh,
that was about it. Some people are worried about how banditry is going to impact the economy, but I'm not a real player economy person, so
yeah.
I really have no clue.
Yeah. How bandits affect the economy? Well, for one, if they're constantly stealing particular shipments, like say there's a big iron trade going between Crown's Rock and Valir, because we know Crown's Rock has iron, but there's pirates out there who are specifically targeting the iron shipments. That's going to crank up those iron prices real quick, especially if those pirates aren't also selling to
Mm.
where those shipments are supposed to be heading, anyways. Um, there's that. Also, you got to think that there could be some unscrupulous merchants out there who may actually hire bandits to target their competition as well.
Yeah, if
Uh,
there's going to be guards, they're going to, I mean, there's going to be all manner of guards that are going to be jumping in
that,
to prevent
that's
that.
also
So,
part. That's also part of the PvP too. You can hire guards.
yep,
Some of them can be player guards to
yep.
protect your shipments as well. So, depending on the level of organization between the merchants and the bandits, things can tip either way pretty quick. Um, that'll definitely be something I'm looking forward to seeing as well. I don't think I'll be too heavily involved in it myself. raiding caravans is kind of neat, but not totally what I'm going for right now. So, but it will be interesting to see how that affects the world economy as it evolves. Um, let's see. Snipe Hunter just posted something in that thread we were talking about with the long wait jobs. He says that even though, yeah, there is a long wait, there are still things you can do like daily to help optimize the process to make a better end product when it finally is time to harvest or finish brewing or whatnot. So it's not like you're just not doing anything for a couple weeks or months.
Yeah,
You do
but
still
still,
have
if
things to
if
do.
I'm breeding a horse, I'm not gonna want, you know, to have to do actually 1 or 2 in-game years trying to work on developing this horse. That's even if I'm doing something every day, that's not enough to make me want to breed a horse. That's not fun.
Yeah. Still, I think it's fun to some people out there, I would think. Not me. I'm too impatient. Honest, way, way too impatient.
Yeah,
If something hasn't blown up today, I'm doing something
yeah.
wrong. But yeah, let's see what else we got.
That's pretty much it. You were saying that economy isn't really something that you are into, but necromancy is something that you are into. So we can
Necromancy.
jump over to necromancy now.
All right. So there have been a lot of developments in necromancy over the past 2 weeks, actually. I've been talking with the devs a lot about it. Um,
Because you were inspired by Arc, I believe, to start this guild that's
mhm.
devoted to. Is it devoted to necromancy?
Mm-mm. It's
What's the focus of the guild?
the
Oh,
guild.
immortality.
Yes,
Of which
immortality.
necromancy might be one component.
Yeah, there's he's going for alchemy. I'm going for necromancy, because both have been suggested as possible avenues to immortality. But there's probably a bunch of others out there. So any ideas other people can come up with, I mean, they're willing. We're willing to accept anybody who's willing to help us pursue that goal. Another thing that's been mentioned is that immortality is probably not something that'll be like um, something you could reproduce necessarily. Like what works for one person probably won't work for everybody else to get immortality. So by pooling our resources together, we're kind of opening up as many avenues as possible, or that's what the plan is, so we can get as many people immortal as possible within our guild. Um, yeah, he'll be exploring necromancy. Odds are, I'll probably go looking into lichdom or something like that. Another thing was mentioned today, talking in the necromancy thread, was the possibility of necromantic pacts as well. Like Snipe Hunter in the past has mentioned that necromancers can speak to the dead and communicate with them. Well, say some bandits killed one of these poor merchants, right? And I happen to come across the merchant's corpse. I could speak to the corpse, find out he was killed by bandits, and be like, "Hey, I'll bring you back as a undead whatever, so you can go hunt down these bandits." And the player or NPC, whatever, might actually agree to that. This is just a theory we've had. We came up with this morning while discussing on the forums.
Who's we?
Me and let's see. Let me get back to that thread. There was, I think, two other people commenting on that. Here we go. Yeah, there's Thurin. I think he might be new to the forums.
Hmm.
Yeah, only 5 posts. And Erasmith, who's been around for a little bit. We were talking about it, and I think it would be kind of a cool idea because what I was thinking of is that instead of the necromancers puppeteering the undead in this case, I give this guy his free will to pursue his revenge, But with this type of ritual, it could be like a temporary undeath thing. Like he'll only be back for a couple days to try and pursue his revenge. Uh, but he could come back to me, the one who brought him back, and I could recharge him, so to speak, in exchange for services rendered. Uh, I think that would be kind of a neat relationship there uh, for a necromancer to pursue. Let's see. And a bunch of other things were brought up too. There
Yeah,
are intelligent.
I think that sounds to me like it wouldn't be so much of a pact, though. Um, that would just be a temporary skill, kind of like madness, I guess, where
It's
if you're bringing back somebody back from the madness plane to the prime plane, uh, you can do that, but it's not going to keep them here indefinitely. If they're still mad, they're going to be eventually be drawn back to the madness plane. And
yeah.
I would imagine that there would be similar effects with necromancy, where you'd have temporary spells that would bring people back from the dead, but it wouldn't necessarily be a permanent solution, so they would still have to come to you. But that's not quite the same thing as a pact.
The thing with true packs is that in revival they don't want to completely deny a player their freedom, kind of deal. Like a sleep effect or a stun effect's only going to last for a few seconds, kind of thing. So a true pact kind of ties your hands. I might as well be puppeteering you at that point. You lose control of your character. They have to do my will in that case. This form of pact, it's like I can bring you back if you do this for me. You can choose not to do it, but when it comes time for if you need more time to finish your task and you haven't done what I asked you to do, I'm not going to recharge you. you're
Yeah,
you're done.
that's not really a pact. I
It,
mean,
still an exchange
it's
there.
barely even a contract. Um, but yeah, I mean,
Still
I
brokering a
think people,
deal.
yeah, people will
Yeah.
be doing that in any case, right? That's just normal gameplay.
I just think that would be a neat form of necromancy, a temporary free will uh, bring back that you could use on players and stuff. Get them out of anime's realm temporarily. They'll be
I
inhabiting
think
their dead
that's likely to
corpse.
happen in any case. I think that's going to be
Uh,
part of normal gameplay. Um,
the
but yeah, I mean, one of the things that I found compelling in the necromancy thread was the concept of is having a good necromancer possible? Um, Revival doesn't really have objective good and evil, so um, what
yeah,
is
no,
your how are you defining good? Because I think you have a subjective view of good. I don't think you have an objective view of. I don't think seem to talk about good with a small g rather than good with a capital G.
um, there are different views on it. Like I think it would still a necromancer can be good if what they use their necromancy for leads to a good end.
See,
Uh,
I think you're talking about the difference between kind or good with the small g versus good with the large G, because there's stipulations there. And what typically, and it also depends on how the magic is defined. So what typically is in D&D is going to keep a necromancer uh, not good is that um, they're using negative energy to revive the dead, and that is the opposite of healing energy, and is going to do things like if you're if you're animating a zombie, the zombie is going to have zombie rot. That's going to cause a problem for living people. um, and it's the same, right? If you're using the healing energy that you use to heal people is the opposite of what's going to animate the dead, and the same for what you use to animate the dead is going to be negative for living people. Um, And so the healing is good, and the undead energy is evil. And that's
I
why it's difficult to have a good, with a capital G, necromancer.
I've been scouring the internet as a whole
Mhm.
for the past week now, trying to just find examples of good necromancers, and suffice to say, they are very, very rare.
Because
Even in
you can have a kind necromancer, which is what I think
uh,
you're seeking. You can have a
there,
kind
I found good necromancers. One I already knew about, Sabriel, is a there's a book series, the Eporson trilogy, I think is what it's called.
Mhm.
The title character of the first book, Sabriel, is a good necromancer.
How is good defined?
How is good defined? Well, she helps the dead move on rather than she's not the type of necromancer
That's
specifically who
kind. She's a kind necromancer. She's
she
not a
saves the
good.
world.
Right. So she's kind, but that's not necessarily the same thing as good.
That's pretty damn good in my book.
Good with a small g, but not
Big
good
G
with a
there, buddy.
no, no, not
She
as
saves the
defined.
world. She
But
brings a petrified guy back,
but
a guy who was
that
turned to stone,
that's
brought him
irrelevant
back.
in terms of D&D good with the capital G. So she's good with the small g, and she's kind, but she's not good because good has a reverence
Ah,
for life, and she has a reverence for unlife. It sounds like.
no, it's definitely life on her part. She's
But
trying to.
she's using it. Is she dealing with the dead or with the undead?
She's dealing with the. Yeah, it's dealing with the dead, but it's not her. Like she's not so much. She's not the type of necromancer who raises the dead. She's not creating zombies. She's the type that if she finds a zombie, she's going to enter like the spirit world or something, try to find the soul tied to that zombie, and lay them to rest. That's her type of necromancy. She's
But that wouldn't so in right. So you have to do this, you have to define how necromancy works, what necromancy is, what good is with the capital G. Um,
I
and so in
did.
D&D terms, she wouldn't be good.
I think she would be, but I also did some digging into what necromancy is, real world necromancy, anyways. And historically speaking, a necromancer is just somebody who speaks to the dead. That's what they were. Um,
Not just. It could be.
that's pretty much what they were. It was later, much later, uh, more recent years that they started going into like they're bringing back the dead kind of deal, or in some cases, it's even saying that they're not bringing back the dead so much as putting demons into dead bodies. It's another concept that's also more recent.
Mhm.
But for the longest time, they were just speaking to the dead kind of deal.
But
Uh,
again, that depends on where, because that's not true if you're talking about Egyptians with mummies. They weren't necessarily speaking to the dead. They were preserving bodies for the souls, right?
mhm. Yeah, the the term necromancy actually seems to have originated in the Bible of all places. Um, so
I
there
thought it
may
was
be
Greek.
the word is Greek, but
Uh-huh.
the it was actually some like it was used in the Bible as was when it was first used, but it's a Greek word or Greek rooted word. It's a twisted Greek word. Because I think it was the Greek word is necromantia or something like that.
But
I'll have
didn't
to
the
look
Greeks
back up.
already have, before the Bible, didn't the Greeks already have communicating with the dead?
Yeah, the word I don't think was coined until it was put into the one of the later Bible books or something. When what was it? There was a king in the Bible who wanted to speak to a dead friend, and a necromancer, a witch, I think she was originally called, who used necromancy to call back his dead friend's spirit, and the spirit told of for like a divination.
Hmm.
The spirit said, uh, basically said that, oh, by the way, since you brought me back, you're going to hell, buddy. We may be friends, but this is bad, so you're going to hell, kind of deal. Um, which wasn't exactly what the king was hoping to hear. But um, anyways, yeah, there's definitely like what we consider modern day necromancy to include. Egypt's practice would fall under that. A lot of weird death practices around the world would fall under the modern scope of necromancy. But
Well, I think it's a difference between D&D version of necromancy versus uh, other forms, other D&D version of necromancy specifically.
okay, sorry, that was a weird thing. Yeah. So yeah, it's just something I've been digging into. The term medium came up in my research as well.
So why are you focused on whether or not uh, necromancer can be good with the capital G versus good with the small G?
Why do I think they can be good with a
No,
capital G?
why does it matter?
Why does it matter?
Yeah.
I like exploring uh, what's the word I'm looking for?
The reason why I'm asking is because, like I said, you can have a kind necromancer.
Yeah, why can't you have a good one?
Depends on how you're. If it's good with the capital G, then there are factors in D&D that prevent that. But if you don't, if
What
you're not using
factors?
factors, so again, the type of divine energy that's being used to practice necromancy, because it's not just the what, it's the how, and also whether or not it's a reverence for life versus a reverence for unlife, because a reverence for life is going to be good, a reverence for unlife is going to be evil. And that's just the objective definitions for good with the capital G and evil with the capital E in D&D specifically. But if you don't have those objective definitions, if you have, like Revival doesn't, then yeah, you can have a good necromancer with the small G. You can have a kind necromancer. That's that's going to be easy. In Revival, again, it's just going to be dependent upon how the NPCs feel about um, the methods that you're using to interact with the dead, um, and what the repercussions are.
In my searches, a lot of discussions of D&D necromancy did come up. And one thing that was neat is that only clerics are restricted in that way. There are good wizards with necromancy spells, including animate dead in D&D. Uh,
What
and
version? Because
hmm,
isn't it evil? What's the descriptor on them?
it has the evil descriptor on it. It does, but wizards are not restricted in with those tags. Only
Right. You
clerics
can
are.
you can use them, but it should have a, a consequence for using them.
Wizards don't really seem to have that mechanically.
What
Uh,
do you mean by that mechanically? Because that's up to the DM, right? So you can
the
use them.
evil and good descriptor tags
Mhm.
are only there mechanically for
For
determining what the
clerics.
clerics can do. Those tags do not come up anywhere in the wizard rules ever.
So
Wizards don't use them.
if a wizard uses a necromancy spell, it doesn't come with the evil descriptor.
The spell itself still has the evil descriptor, but the wizard is not restricted by
Right,
that tag.
but what that means is that if they're using something that's evil, the DM should be pushing them towards evil the more often they use something that is evil. That's the way it should work. So that it means that the wizard isn't impeded from mechanically from using the spell, but there are still consequences for using the spell because it's still evil.
Yeah. The
So
another
their alignment should start shifting the more they do something that's evil.
mm, possibly. Again, I think it also goes back to the does the ends justify the means thing
They
as
don't.
well.
That's the whole point of having those objective things in D&D.
What do you
The
mean
whole
they don't?
purpose of having good and evil was to make it so that if you started making those kinds of choices where the ends are supposed to justify the means, your alignment starts shifting. That's what the DM is supposed to do because you're compromising your morals. That's why they are there.
Hmm. I don't know about that.
Well, that's the way it was for 30 years. I don't know what it's like in the last 10 years, but that's what it was like in the first 30 years.
3 point, let's see, 3.0 and up. I don't know.
Yeah. 3.0 changed quite a bit, so.
There's also other lore to look at as well. The Elder Scrolls has examples of good necromancers as well. The Dunmer people, their view of necromancy is completely different from the Empire's view of necromancy, for
Yeah.
instance.
And we should
Uh,
expect that in Revival, I think.
yeah, the oh yeah, definitely, especially if Kolaja, for instance, does draw heavily on Egypt, as I suspect they might. Egypt even had an undead god. Osiris was an undead god, um, among other things, but he was a good god in their pantheon.
Mhm.
Um, there's also, back to the Elder Scrolls thing, um, the Dunmer view of necromancy is that I am not forcing the dead to work for me. I'm actually praying to my ancestors to come and save my ass right now. So, and the undead that arrive from that form of necromancy are that character's ancestors showing up to save them, kind of deal. Um, and which is different from the imperial form of necromancy, where they are like, "Yeah, soul, you're my bitch. Get in that body,
Well,
work
but
for
it's
me."
different because there's a difference between animating dead and creating undead and resurrecting. Because if you're resurrecting somebody, you're drawing on healing and positive energy, and that's okay. Um, versus drawing on negative energy, um, which is going to create undead, and that's not okay. But I think what we're going to have in revival is a question of like flesh mending is probably good
Hmm.
with a small g. Um, Flesh crafting might be questionable. Um, and then, if you're creating something, even if we're not speaking of undead, if you create a chimera with flesh crafting, or you create a golem, is that something that Hylathia is going to
Hmm.
condone? Um, because technically it might be life, but she's probably closer to natural life versus unnatural life. And so those are the kinds of things that you have to weigh. Which gods are helping you with the necromancy, and what is the god's vision of nature versus supernatural? Not supernatural, but I guess unnatural.
If
Um,
if I had to take a guess on the Hylathe point there, I'm pretty sure she's probably against undead in general, just because of the ugliness factor.
yeah, but I meant even
But
even
with
not just
golems,
undead. Yeah, even not
golems, I
just.
think there might be an exception there.
Well,
Uh,
how good you
because
think?
with the golems, one, it can be a damn good looking golem. Two, what if they're using these golems in forms of performance art as well? That could be something she's really into.
Yeah, I think it depends, but I think it's gonna be because I think she's over beauty, but I think it's beauty and nature. So if you're doing things that are unnatural, I think that could be an issue. Um,
There's also Bast, who's
yeah,
another
was saying Hylathi don't like no necromancy. Um,
highlight they won't have an issue with golems. He also says.
mhm.
So
um,
yeah.
yeah, what about flesh golems? That's exactly the sort of moral
Flesh
we
golems,
could consider.
well.
Yeah, which is what I was thinking too, flesh golems. Um, and chimera, again, it might not even just be undead, but there's all kinds of stuff that you could do. Um, Striving for immortality.
I think of
That's
golem, I typically think of
that's
stone.
no. there's various
That's
forms. There's
there.
various
There's a
forms
lot of different forms
in
of golems. It's just the default one I think of is
yeah.
a statue that's animated kind of
Yeah.
deal. But flesh golems, yeah, I see that. D&D has got a ton of examples of different golems. I mean, I think there's even a snow golem in there somewhere, basically a snowman brought to life. So yeah, there's a lot of weird golems out ideas out there.
Yes, I think it will be interesting to see if there are various forms of necromancy. Um, what kind of magic is being used to uh, to do that? Is there different forms of magic to communicate with the dead? Um, Divination versus necromancy, or does it have to be both?
There's also the
Um,
spirit stat too, which supposedly allows you to interact with the dead as well, at least ghosts that are still around.
mhm,
So there's probably more than one way to talk to the dead.
mhm.
As you suggested, divination, I have hardly any doubt that that'll possibly have a way of communicating with the dead or other things on different planes.
Mhm.
Necromancy, probably just limited to speaking to the dead, but hey, it's a way to communicate with the dead. um, so yeah, there's a. I like thinking about the overlaps some skills will have in revival. Like, yes, divination, you can perform divinations or communicate with things. Necromancy also has some of that too. Even with divinations, through brain suddenly stopped working there. Um, Again, when I was looking at historical examples of necromancy, a lot of it would be like reading bones and stuff like that, calling in spirits to, you know, do stuff with bones. It's another form of necromancy. Mostly focused on things that have already happened, but some of it can also reveal revelations to the future, like with the king in the Bible there. Also, Odysseus in the Odyssey ran into some of that as well.
Right. So, because we had several different examples in the planes walking um, blog of the different ways that you can initiate planeswalking. One of the ways was with incense. So it could be that communicating with the dead using incense would be a good way to do it, and using bones to communicate with the dead would be seen as evil. Um, but yeah, I don't know where the devs are going to go with that. Um, and again, since it's not really objective good and evil in revival, um, it's going to be more subjective than that. But I wonder if that's going to be tied in with gods as well, so that maybe it's the outer gods that require you to use bones, or maybe it's the elder gods that would use incense, and that might be a determining factor in terms of whether
Another
something is more good than evil.
another thing I'd like to bring up about the difference between D&D necromancy and historic necromancy is that historic necromancy is the magic of both death and life. It's both, whereas D&D it's just death. And they put life under conjuration or something like that. But
Right.
yeah, if revival's form of necromancy follows more the historical form of necromancy, potential of life necromancers is there. Uh, and also, I know Pathfinder did that too. There are life necromancers in Pathfinder. Uh, so yeah, it'd be interesting to see where they go with it, and that would definitely have a big impact on whether necromancers, as you say, can be good with a little g or a big G, I guess.
Was saying that societies will have their opinions, but your karma will be affected by what the gods think. Um,
Think,
so we have questions. Did
hmm
we get questions in Skype?
Yep, they're on Skype.
Do you want to read them?
Sure, I can read off the first one here. From Mother Rabbit. Can I have a messenger raven? I don't see why not. I mean, there are animal trainers out there. I could probably train a raven to do that. Ravens are pretty smart. It's a lot smarter than a pigeon. I could see that happening.
Um, Snipe Hunter mentioned something interesting in chat. You can animate a skeleton, but it takes more effort than a muscled corpse would, which kind of makes a little bit of sense. Um, but I hadn't thought of it ever that way. That makes
Hmm.
that's kind of interesting. It makes sense because you have to have more magic to make the skeletons move without muscles. And Zero got the question answered by Omwa. I don't see which question that was. Ravens are hella smart, so Snipe Hunter seems to be saying that messenger ravens are likely.
Probably, yeah. Let's see. So you saying the zero question was already
He
answered?
says that, but
All right.
go ahead and read it.
The question was, does anyone think Paro was being impatient? Has anyone heard since blog if there is a range of possible delay for said messenger birds? Essentially, could a bird have come a few hours after he left? I think it's possible, but
Had Well, no, he hadn't been waiting for 3 months. It had been stolen from in the span of 3 months. But
yeah,
yeah, we don't know how long he'd been waiting to see the
for
messenger.
this most recent one, yeah, we don't really know. It's possible that the bird could have just shown up right after he left, and his last shipment could have been just fine. But going with how his last few shipments have been ended up, it's pretty reasonable that he was right on the money with his guess that this latest one also got stolen.
This is a nice riff going over here. What if the raven pigeon hit a rainstorm, or got shot down by a hunter, or had to hole up in a tree? All kinds of stuff. Yeah. Sometimes we just don't want to wait.
Sometimes, yeah. Let's see. Next question. Also from Mother Rabbit. We talked about house golems, but can we create them to travel with our caravan? I don't see why not.
Yeah,
They
we
would
had a
fall under.
question about how smart we can make them, right?
Hmm, yeah,
I
how
think
smart
that
a
would be
golem
the
can be. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I think that would be the factor, right?
I know with necromancy, it has been said there are both unintelligent and intelligent undead out there.
Yeah, I think you would want them
But
to be
golems, I don't know.
fairly intelligent, so they don't just wander off and do their own thing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Let's see. So yeah, with the caravan thing, I think yeah, a golem could travel with the caravan. I mean, they count towards your 12 hireling minion whatever count. So yeah, I think so. You could get them to do that. Let's see another question from Mother Rabbit. Uh, let's and similarly, if I gain the trust of say a wolf, will he travel with me as well? Again, that's a pet. I would assume so. Yeah, I think that could also happen.
Yeah, that's if you have animal lore and you're able to train the wolf, then they'll travel. You
She's
have to
got a
work at it.
question for you as well,
Hmm.
specifically. Mother Rabbit, more for digs. If I use necromancy to talk to a doctor that came up with a cure for the plague but died before administering it, good or bad?
If you're using what I think of necromancy, then and you're talking to a doctor, it doesn't matter. The alignment would be good. The outcome, no, I mean the alignment would be evil. It might be a neutral situation at best, but
Mm.
if you're using necromancy, necromancy is evil. So
And just throw my 2 cents in there. I think it would be good. I mean, you're getting the cure from the dead doctor for this plague that's going on. You're
good with the
saving a
small
lot of
g.
lives. I'd still say that's a big G there. But we got our differences. Let's see. And I think that's it for the questions linked in Skype. Um, we missing any? Let's
Nope,
see.
that was it.
I think I saw a new question pop up in chat, but that might have been the one for you that was just posted there. Okay. Yeah, I don't see it anymore anyways. All
Cool.
right.
Well, we're over time. Next week we will have Valix back. He's done with his work stint for the summer, so he should be back next week. And what are we covering in the blog next week? I'm forgetting offhand.
I'm actually drawing a blank too. Let me pull that up. Somebody's going to beat me to it, but I'm going to look anyways. Kedron's going to talk about population and difficulty
Right.
scaling relative to location.
Right.
Yeah, so yeah, just how difficult things are going to be, I guess, in different regions, and how fluid that's going to be. Because what may be a hard region to get through one day might not be so difficult the next, as threats get taken out, kind of deal,
Hmm.
or migrate elsewhere. So yeah, that would be interesting to see. Another mechanic blog.
Hmm.
Very nifty.
Cool, cool. Well, I think that wraps us up. And I hope everybody had fun. I will see you guys next week. Happy
Bye.
Indigenous People Day tomorrow.
Yeah.